Have you ever wondered why some people remain unshaken in the face of chaos, while others crumble at the slightest setback? What if the secret to true, unbreakable confidence wasn't about being loud, bold, or constantly achieving, but about mastering something much quieter? Your own mind. Welcome back to another deep dive episode that's going to shift the way you see yourself and the world around you. Today, we're unlocking 10 powerful Stoic lessons that don't just teach you how to keep calm under pressure. They show you how to transform your mindset, boost your inner strength, and develop a confidence so grounded that nothing outside of you can shake it. If you've ever struggled with self-doubt, felt overwhelmed by life's curveballs, or just wish you could feel more in control, this video is exactly what you need. So stick around, because what you're about to learn isn't just philosophy. It's practical wisdom you can apply every single day. And hey, if you find these lessons valuable, go ahead and hit that like button, share the episode with someone who needs a confidence boost, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another empowering insight. Now, let's jump in. Let's begin by unraveling a major misconception. What does real confidence look like? In modern culture, confidence is often mistaken for arrogance. We're told to fake it till we make it, to be louder, flashier, and more visible. It's often associated with external symbols, wealth, status, followers, applause. But here's the truth. Stoicism teaches us that real confidence doesn't shout. It's silent, deep, and unwavering. It's not found in expensive suits or Instagram likes. It's found in something far more enduring: self-mastery. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it bluntly: "No one is free who is not master of himself." What does that mean for us today? It means that true confidence isn't about dominating your environment. It's about mastering your internal world, your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. Imagine standing in the eye of a storm. Everything around you is spinning: criticism, failure, uncertainty, and yet you remain still. That's Stoic confidence. It doesn't mean you don't feel fear or doubt. It means those emotions no longer control you. Let's paint a picture. Think of someone who appears confident, but only when things are going well. They walk tall when they're being praised, when money's flowing, when their social media posts are getting likes. But the moment they're criticized or ignored, their sense of self-worth collapses. That's fragile confidence, and it's built on shifting sand. Now contrast that with someone else. Maybe they're not the loudest in the room. Maybe they don't seek the spotlight. But no matter what's happening around them, whether they're winning or losing, they move through life with clarity, composure, and quiet strength. That's resilient confidence, and it's exactly what Stoicism helps us build. Stoic confidence isn't reactive. It's rooted. It doesn't depend on others. It doesn't rise and fall with external events. It's planted deep within. The Stoics believe that confidence is born from what we control, not from chasing what we don't. And what do we control, really? Not the economy, not other people's opinions, not how the world unfolds. What we can control is our own response, our perception, our discipline, our mindset. One of the greatest Stoic emperors, Marcus Aurelius, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single insight can change your life. When you shift your focus inward, toward your attitude, your habits, your choices, you take back your power. And that's when confidence starts to grow, not like a firework, but like a tree, slowly, steadily, from the inside out. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, where does my confidence come from? Is it tied to things that are outside your control? What others think, what you achieve, or how much praise you receive? Or is it grounded in something deeper? Your values, your resilience, your ability to stay centered even when life gets messy. The Stoics would encourage us to be brutally honest here, not to judge ourselves, but to gain awareness. Because awareness is the first step toward freedom. True confidence doesn't fluctuate with success or failure. It remains steady because it's built on self-trust. And self-trust is something you earn little by little, every time you choose discipline over impulse, values over validation, clarity over chaos. Imagine your confidence like a fortress. If it's built with the stones of other people's approval, it will crumble the moment the winds change. But if it's constructed from within, brick by brick, through self-awareness, practice, and presence, then no storm can tear it down. That's the kind of confidence Stoicism offers, and that's just lesson 1. Stick with me, because in the next segment, we'll explore how Stoicism teaches us to embrace discomfort, and why that might be the most empowering thing you can do. Let's keep going. So, in the last section, we uncovered how real confidence doesn't come from the applause of others. It grows from mastering your inner world. But how do we actually build that kind of unshakable inner confidence? Let's take it one step deeper. One of the most powerful tools the Stoics used to strengthen inner confidence wasn't external at all. It was something much quieter, but far more impactful. Self-reflection. Picture this. After a long day, instead of collapsing into distraction or noise, you pause. You sit with your thoughts. You look back on your actions, your emotions, your reactions. What drove you today? Were your choices aligned with your values? What could you have done better? The Stoics believed that this practice of regular reflection was essential. It was how they sharpened their self-awareness, kept their minds clear, and built authentic confidence. Not the surface-level kind, but confidence rooted in truly knowing yourself. When you understand your values, your strengths, and your weaknesses, you stop getting lost in comparison or seeking approval. You start trusting your own compass. Think about it. How can you feel confident if you don't truly understand who you are? It's like trying to steer a ship without knowing where the anchor is. You drift, you chase approval, you fear judgment. But when you take time to understand yourself, what drives you, what you stand for, you become grounded. You're no longer chasing validation because you've already found clarity within. Let's say you're facing a tough situation, maybe a job interview, a confrontation, or an uncertain decision. If you're focused only on the outcome, you might freeze or second-guess everything. But when you take a moment to step back and remind yourself of your core values and what you can control, something shifts. You feel centered. You act with purpose, not panic. That's the inner calm that Stoicism encourages. It's not about eliminating uncertainty. It's about building the kind of confidence that doesn't disappear when uncertainty appears. Here's another truth, bomb from the Stoics. Confidence isn't about never failing. It's about knowing how to respond when you do. Many people struggle with confidence not because they're incapable, but because they're terrified of messing up. They equate failure with weakness. But the Stoics flipped that idea completely. They believed that failure is part of the process, a stepping stone to wisdom, not something to fear or avoid. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most influential thinkers, once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Let that sink in. Most of the time, it's not failure itself that limits us. It's our fear of failing that stops us from even trying. Need a real-world example? Let's talk about Thomas Edison, the man behind the invention of the light bulb. Edison famously failed thousands of times before finally succeeding. But he didn't view those failed attempts as wasted time. When asked about them, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That response perfectly echoes the Stoic mindset. Edison wasn't discouraged by failure because he didn't see it as final. Every setback was a lesson. Every mistake was a refinement. That's how he built confidence, not by avoiding failure, but by facing it again and again until success emerged. Real confidence doesn't come from getting it right every time. It comes from knowing you'll keep going, even when you don't. So let's bring this together. To build true, Stoic-inspired confidence, you must stop chasing the illusion of perfection. Instead, turn inward, reflect daily, understand your values, own your mistakes, learn from them, grow. When you shift your mindset from "I hope I don't fail" to "I know I'll learn no matter what," you start showing up with power, presence, and peace. That's the kind of confidence the Stoics lived by, and it's the kind that no external challenge can ever take away from you. Now that we've explored the role of self-awareness and how to embrace imperfection, let's move into the next vital part of building inner confidence: living in alignment with your personal beliefs. Because when your actions reflect your values, your confidence doesn't need validation. It becomes a natural result of living authentically. In the last segment, we uncovered the incredible strength that comes from self-reflection, how knowing yourself builds confidence that doesn't break under pressure. Now let's take that idea even further into one of the most empowering aspects of Stoic wisdom: living according to your personal beliefs. Here's a question. Do you know what you truly believe in? Not what your friends believe, not what society expects, not what your job or background suggests you should believe, but you at your core. Because when you're not clear on who you are or what you stand for, something subtle but powerful happens. You start drifting. You find yourself constantly influenced, sometimes even overwhelmed, by the opinions, expectations, and judgments of others. You hesitate. You second guess. You look outward instead of inward. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it brilliantly: know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. What he meant is simple, but profound. Confidence begins with clarity. When you know who you are, what you value, and what matters to you, decision-making becomes easier. You don't need to constantly seek direction from others, because you already have your own internal compass. Think about someone who does live by their values. Maybe it's a friend, a mentor, or even you in your best moments. Imagine this scenario. They're offered 2 job opportunities. One comes with a high salary and lots of prestige, but it involves compromising their personal ethics. The other pays less, but it aligns with their beliefs and allows them to sleep peacefully at night. What would a Stoic choose? Someone grounded in Stoic confidence wouldn't hesitate. They'd choose the second, not because it's easy, but because it's right for them. They know that true success isn't about appearances or income. It's about living with integrity. And when your actions are aligned with your values, you don't need applause. You don't need constant reassurance. You can walk through life with quiet confidence because you know you're being true to yourself. Here's another gem of wisdom from the Stoics, this time from Marcus Aurelius. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Let that settle in for a moment. What you believe about yourself, about others, and about the world. Those thoughts form the foundation of your experience. If your thoughts are rooted in truth, purpose, and integrity, your confidence becomes unshakable. But if your thoughts revolve around shallow pursuits, like popularity, wealth, or fitting in, then your confidence will always be fragile. Why? Because those things are outside your control. They can be taken away in an instant, and Stoicism reminds us again and again: your peace should never depend on what you cannot control. Living by your beliefs doesn't mean life gets easier. In fact, it often means you'll face more resistance. There will always be people who question your values, who criticize your choices, who try to pull you off course. That's inevitable. But when you're deeply rooted in what you believe, those voices lose their power over you. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, offered this timeless advice: as long as you know you are living according to your principles, don't let criticism from others shake you. Criticism will come, doubt will come. But confidence doesn't mean those things disappear. Confidence means you stay steady in their presence. You may feel the pressure. You may even question yourself at times. But deep down, you trust that your decisions come from a place of clarity and conviction, not convenience or conformity. Let's ground this in a relatable modern example. Imagine you've decided to adopt a minimalist lifestyle. You've chosen to live simply and sustainably because it aligns with your beliefs about environmental impact, mental clarity, and intentional living. At first, it feels great. You feel free, focused, and aligned. But then, friends start questioning. Why don't you upgrade your phone? Are you seriously not getting a car? Come on, just splurge a little, live a little. It's tempting to give in, right? No one wants to feel left out or judged. But here's where your Stoic training comes in. Instead of bending to social pressure, you remind yourself why you chose this path. You reconnect with your values. You reflect on the peace and clarity this lifestyle brings you. And just like that, you feel strong again, not because others approve, but because you approve of yourself. That's Stoic confidence in action. Quiet, steady, resilient. So what have we learned here? Confidence isn't just about what you do, it's about why you do it. When your life reflects your beliefs, when your actions match your values, you don't need external validation. You become your own source of strength. As the Stoics teach us, living by your principles protects you from the chaos of public opinion and the confusion of trying to please everyone. You may not always take the easiest road, but it will always be the right road for you. So we just explored how powerful it is to live in alignment with your beliefs, how confidence grows when your actions reflect your values, not others' expectations. But what happens when those around you don't understand your choices? That's where the real strength of Stoic confidence is tested and proven. Let's go back to that minimalist lifestyle example. You've chosen to live with less. Fewer clothes, a smaller apartment, simpler routines. Not because you're trying to prove a point, but because you believe in sustainability and intentional living. This choice reflects your values. But then, the questions start coming. Why don't you treat yourself more? You could afford something better. Why settle? Are you really happy living like that? Sound familiar? Sometimes it's family. Sometimes it's friends. But often, the people closest to us just don't see what we see. And that's okay, because you do. Here's the Stoic truth. When your decisions come from your values, not from pressure or appearances, the opinions of others start to lose their power. You might hear them, but they don't shake you. Why? Because you've built your confidence on what matters to you, not on approval. You're not reacting, you're choosing, and that, in itself, is a powerful form of freedom. Now, let's zoom in. Living by your values isn't just about big, dramatic life choices. In fact, the real magic happens in the small moments. Those everyday situations where you get to decide, will I act out of habit or will I act out of principle? For example, say one of your core values is kindness. That doesn't mean you wait for some grand gesture to live it out. It means you choose to respond with patience when someone is rude. It means offering a smile to a stranger or showing compassion when it would be easier to judge. These might seem like small actions, but over time, they stack up. They reinforce your identity. They remind you, this is who I am. And every time you live by your values, especially when it's inconvenient, you send a message to yourself. I trust me. That message builds real, lasting confidence. Not flashy, not loud, just steady, quiet assurance that you're walking your talk. But how do we know if we're living according to our values? That's where self-reflection comes in. A practice the Stoics saw as essential. They didn't just live reactively. They paused. They reviewed. They asked themselves, am I living in harmony with what I believe? By taking time each day, or even just once a week, to reflect on your thoughts, actions, and decisions, you develop a much clearer understanding of what's working and what's not. Are you making choices out of fear or integrity? Are you drifting, or are you intentionally living? This kind of reflection sharpens your awareness and strengthens your alignment. It helps you course correct, recenter, and realign, when life pulls you off track. Let's take a look at Marcus Aurelius, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, and also a Roman emperor. Despite ruling over an empire, he made time for quiet reflection. His personal writings, later published as meditations, weren't meant for anyone else. They were his way of keeping himself honest. Through journaling, Marcus reflected on his behavior, questioned his own intentions, and reminded himself of what truly mattered. This daily practice helped him stay aligned with his beliefs, no matter what chaos or temptation surrounded him. And here's the lesson. You don't have to be an emperor to benefit from reflection. A simple notebook, a few quiet minutes. 1. Honest question. Did I live according to my values today? That's where confidence begins. Not from perfection, but from presence. So, what can we take away from all this? Confidence doesn't come from being understood by others. It comes from understanding yourself, from acting with integrity, even when it's inconvenient, from choosing what you value again and again, even in the face of opposition. Stoicism teaches that external validation is fleeting, but the self-assurance built through consistent alignment with your beliefs, that's lasting. Through daily reflection, small intentional choices, and the courage to walk your own path, you build a kind of confidence that isn't dependent on applause. It's rooted in truth, your truth. And when you live like that, you don't just survive uncertainty, you rise above it. In the previous section, we explored how true confidence grows when you stay aligned with your personal values, even when others don't understand your choices. Now, let's take that clarity one step further by learning how to focus your energy on what truly matters. Because in a world full of noise, distractions, and endless comparisons, learning to filter out what doesn't matter is just as important as knowing what does. Have you ever found yourself chasing something, recognition, money, likes, praise, only to finally get it and think, that's it, you're not alone? Many of us spend years striving for things we think will bring us happiness, only to discover they leave us feeling just as empty, if not more so. This is exactly what the Stoics warned us about. They believed that confidence and peace don't come from the outside world, but from focusing on the right things, things that endure, things that align with our values and are within our control. One of the most memorable Stoic quotes on this comes from Epictetus. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Let that sink in. It's not about how much you own, it's about how little you need to feel whole. When you stop chasing after more and start focusing on what truly brings value, things like personal growth, genuine relationships, integrity, and inner peace, you begin to feel more centered, more present, and yes, more confident. But let's be real. Staying focused in today's world isn't easy. From morning to night, we're bombarded with distractions, ads telling us what to buy, social media telling us how to look, news and influencers telling us what to believe. And let's not forget the constant opinions of others, unsolicited, unfiltered, and often overwhelming. It's easy to get swept up in it all. Easy to forget what matters when everything is screaming for your attention. The Stoics saw this coming, even centuries ago. That's why they emphasized the power of simplicity and of guarding your attention like it's the most valuable currency you have. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, posed a simple but powerful question. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? What if you pause throughout the day to ask that? Is this argument necessary? Is this scrolling helping me? Is this thought or worry actually useful? That one question can cut through the noise like a sharp blade and bring you back to what's essential. Let's go deeper. What do distractions really cost us? Not just time, not just energy, but confidence. When you're constantly pulled away from your goals, your purpose, and your values, you start to lose your sense of self. You become reactive instead of intentional, scattered instead of steady. Think about how often we get caught up in things that, if we were honest, don't really matter in the long run, mindlessly scrolling for hours, obsessing over someone else's opinion, chasing superficial goals that leave us empty. These distractions dilute our focus, and with it, our confidence. But when we bring our attention back to what really matters, something shifts. We gain clarity, we gain energy, we gain trust in ourselves, because we're no longer wasting time, we're investing it. Seneca, another master of Stoic thought, wrote extensively about this in his famous essay, On the Shortness of Life. And in it, he delivers a reminder that still hits hard today. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. That line is a wake-up call. We often think we don't have enough time, but the truth is, we often give too much of it away to things that don't serve us. Want to build unshakable confidence? Start by asking, am I spending my time in ways that reflect what I truly value? When your time and energy are aligned with your goals, with your beliefs, and with what truly matters, you start to feel more in control. You feel empowered, you feel grounded, and confidence flows naturally from that place. Let's imagine a typical situation. You're working on something important, maybe a personal project, studying for a goal, or trying to improve a skill. But halfway through, you get a notification, then a message, then another. Before you know it, 45 minutes have gone by, and not a single meaningful step has been taken. Now contrast that with a focused session where you shut off the noise, no distractions, just you and your goal. Afterwards, which version of yourself feels more confident? Exactly. When you focus on what matters, even in small moments, you build a track record with yourself. You start to prove, again and again, that you can trust yourself to follow through. That trust, that's confidence. So, here's what the Stoics are really teaching us. Confidence doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters most. It comes from aligning your attention with your values. It comes from filtering out the noise and focusing on the things that move your life in a meaningful direction. When you ask, is this necessary? You're not just cutting distractions. You're choosing presence over pressure, purpose over performance, clarity over chaos. And in that space, confidence isn't something you chase. It's something you become. So far, we've learned that confidence grows when we focus our energy on what truly matters, our values, our purpose, and the present moment, rather than being pulled in 1,000 directions by noise and distractions. Now, let's go a step further by exploring how to protect that focus, especially when temptations and worries threaten to pull us off course. Let's say you're working toward a meaningful goal, whether it's personal growth, a career aspiration, or building stronger relationships. You're motivated, you've got a vision, but somehow your energy keeps getting scattered. Maybe you catch yourself scrolling through social media when you intended to work. Maybe you're constantly worrying about how others see you. Or maybe you're just overwhelmed by all the noise around you. Sound familiar? Here's where the Stoic approach becomes incredibly practical. It starts with a simple but powerful pause and a question. Does this align with my values and goals? If the answer is no, then it's time to step back and let go of the distraction. This one shift can save you from days, weeks, even years of wasted energy. Because when your actions aren't aligned with your deeper purpose, your confidence starts to erode. But when you refocus, when you consciously choose what matters, your sense of clarity and inner strength returns. Here's another key teaching from the Stoics. True confidence and happiness don't come from external success. They come from inner peace. Think about that. If your sense of worth is tied to what others think, likes, compliments, titles, you're handing over control of your confidence to forces you can't manage, and that makes it fragile. But what if, instead of chasing external validation, you started cultivating inner calm? Through practices like mindfulness, gratitude, and self-reflection, The Stoics remind us that confidence grows not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Take mindfulness, for example. Though it's a term we often hear today, its essence aligns beautifully with Stoic thought. Being mindful means being fully present, not dwelling on the past, not stressing about the future, but showing up fully for now. When you practice mindfulness, you're not just calming your mind, you're sharpening your focus. You're saying to yourself, this moment matters. Whether you're engaged in a deep conversation, tackling an important task, or simply pausing to breathe, mindfulness trains you to invest your attention where it counts. And guess what? When you give your full attention to the present, you act with more clarity, more intention, and more confidence. You're no longer distracted by worries or what-ifs. You're grounded, you're engaged, and that engagement builds real trust in yourself. Another cornerstone of Stoic confidence is learning to let go of what you can't control. Epictetus put it simply, yet powerfully. We should focus only on what we can control and let go of everything else. This is one of those principles that's easy to understand, but hard to live. Why? Because our minds love to latch onto things we wish we could change, what others think about us, whether things will go our way, the outcome of our efforts, even how someone reacts to our words. But Stoicism draws a clear line. You are not responsible for the outcome. You are responsible for your effort, your attitude, your response. When you stop wasting mental energy on things outside your control, something incredible happens. You free up that energy to focus on what you can influence, and that shift is where real confidence begins. So many people feel anxious about the future. They worry about what might happen, about things going wrong, about not being good enough. But worry often comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Let's take an example. You're preparing for an important presentation. You could spend your time stressing over whether your audience will like it, or you could focus on preparing as well as you possibly can, refining your message and showing up with intention. The Stoics would remind you that you don't control the audience, but you do control your preparation, your mindset, your effort, and when you focus on those things, on what's yours to manage, you walk into the room with quiet confidence, no matter what happens next. So, what's the deeper message here? Focusing on what matters isn't just about productivity, it's about peace. When you stop trying to control what's outside of you and start focusing on what's within your reach, your actions, your choices, your state of mind, you reclaim your power. You stop chasing. You start choosing. That shift doesn't just improve your day, it transforms your confidence. To sum it up, let go of distractions that don't serve your goals. Prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. Be present. Practice mindfulness. Stop worrying about things outside your control and start focusing on what's truly yours to manage. Because confidence isn't about controlling the world, it's about mastering your response to it. When you live this way, you're not just surviving, you're thriving from a place of calm, clarity, and courage. Previously, we explored how confidence grows when we let go of distractions, stop trying to control the uncontrollable, and focus instead on what truly matters, our actions, our values, and our inner peace. Now, let's dive into a practice that strengthens all of that. A tool that lies at the heart of Stoic growth and real, lasting confidence. What if one of the most effective ways to build confidence wasn't about doing more, but about pausing more often? That's exactly what the Stoics believed. They taught that one of the greatest tools for personal growth, one that sharpens awareness, deepens self-trust, and leads to real inner strength, is self-reflection. Self-reflection isn't just about glancing back on your day. It's about taking a clear, honest look at your thoughts, actions, and emotions, without judgment. It's not about criticizing yourself or dwelling on mistakes. It's about learning, adjusting, growing. And with each reflection, you gain more insight into who you are, what drives you, and how to live more intentionally. Let's turn to the Stoic philosopher Seneca, who championed this practice as a non-negotiable part of daily life. He believed that, at the end of each day, we should all take time to look inward and ask ourselves a few key questions. What infirmity have I mastered today? What passion opposed? What temptation resisted? What virtue acquired? This wasn't a mental punishment. It was a daily ritual for growth, a quiet conversation with the self. Imagine ending each evening with this type of clarity, sitting down, even for just 5 minutes, and asking, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What can I do better tomorrow? That's not weakness. That's strength. That's how confidence is built. One honest reflection at a time. Here's why this practice is so powerful. Reflection creates clarity, and clarity is the foundation of confidence. When you regularly reflect on your choices, your habits, your emotions, you begin to notice patterns. You start to see where your strengths lie, where your values shine through, and where you might be drifting. With that clarity, you're no longer guessing what needs to change. You know. And when you know, you can act. That ability to take intentional steps toward improvement fuels a steady, reliable sense of self-assurance. You no longer feel lost or reactive. You feel equipped, prepared, grounded. Let's get practical. Suppose you reflect and notice that in moments of stress, you tend to respond with defensiveness. Maybe you interrupt, shut down, or avoid uncomfortable conversations. These reactions may have been on autopilot for years. But now, because of reflection, you've noticed the pattern. That single moment of recognition, it's the first step to transformation. Now, each time you feel that old impulse rising, you're aware. You can choose a different response. You can begin to rewrite the story. And here's what's even more powerful. Every time you choose differently, you reinforce a new habit, one that reflects who you want to be, not who you've been on default. Over time, this conscious shift strengthens your sense of control over your behavior. And that control? That's a huge source of confidence. Think of self-reflection as your personal roadmap. Without it, you're wandering through life hoping you'll land somewhere meaningful. But with it, you've got direction. You've got checkpoints. You know what's working and what isn't. It's like updating your internal compass each day. You're not chasing perfection. You're staying aligned. And that daily alignment builds real, steady confidence. Because now, instead of being surprised by your reactions or overwhelmed by setbacks, you understand your internal world, and that understanding gives you an edge. The Stoics believed that strength doesn't always show up in outward action. Sometimes it's in silence, stillness, the courage to sit with yourself and face the truth without flinching. That's what self-reflection gives you, a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself, because it knows it's growing, refining, evolving. Even if no one sees that work, you do, and that's what matters. To summarize, self-reflection isn't about judgment, it's about growth. It helps you spot patterns, reinforce values, and make smarter choices. It gives you clarity about where you're thriving and where you need to grow. And with that clarity, you gain direction and confidence. When you know yourself, you trust yourself, and that's where unshakable confidence begins. In the last section, we uncovered how daily self-reflection can sharpen your awareness, reveal personal patterns, and serve as a powerful roadmap for personal growth. But now let's take that even further by exploring how self-reflection connects directly with one of the core teachings of Stoicism, focusing only on what's within your control. One of the central pillars of Stoic philosophy is this: focus on what you can control and let go of everything else. It sounds simple, but living this out, that's where the real work begins. Self-reflection is how we take that big idea and apply it to real life, moment by moment. It helps us turn philosophical insight into practical action. Every time you pause to examine your response to a difficult situation, You're asking the most Stoic question of all. Did I focus on what I could control, or did I let my emotions take the wheel? Imagine this. You've just come out of a tough conversation. Maybe someone criticized your work or misunderstood your intentions. Naturally, emotions bubble up: frustration, anger, self-doubt. But later that evening, you reflect. How did I respond? Did I stay grounded in my values? Did I act with calm, or did I react out of emotion? This simple act of honest questioning helps you become more mindful of how you meet life's challenges, and over time, it teaches you to respond with greater calm, clarity, and confidence. But self-reflection isn't only about how you act, it's also about what's happening in your inner world. Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, filled page after page of his meditations with this kind of internal exploration. He knew that the quality of our lives is shaped not by events, but by how we think about them. In one of his most quoted lines, he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." That line is more than just a wise saying, it's a call to action. By regularly reflecting on your thoughts, you begin to notice recurring patterns. You might catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," or "I always mess things up." But here's the shift. With self-reflection, those thoughts no longer go unchallenged. Instead of letting them quietly drain your confidence, you stop and ask, is this really true? Have I faced challenges and succeeded before? What evidence do I have that I can't handle this? This process is known as reframing, and it's one of the most powerful tools for building confidence. Let's say you're facing a new opportunity, a job interview, a public presentation, a difficult conversation. You feel that whisper of doubt creep in. What if I fail? Instead of freezing or backing away, you reflect. When was the last time I faced something hard and came through stronger? What strengths helped me succeed then, and how can I use them now? By anchoring yourself in past experiences and in truth, not fear, you begin to rebuild your inner narrative. You remind yourself, I've been through this before, I've grown, I've handled worse. That quiet self-dialogue builds something powerful over time: resilience. And resilience? That's the bedrock of lasting confidence. Another essential benefit of reflection is that it helps keep you aligned with your values. The Stoics believed that confidence doesn't come from the outcomes of your actions, but from why you take those actions in the first place. Living with integrity, choosing kindness, acting justly, staying focused. When you take a few minutes each day to ask, did I act with integrity today? Was I kind, even when it was hard? Did I live according to my values, or did I let the noise pull me off track? You're not just reviewing your day, you're reinforcing your identity. You're reminding yourself, this is who I am. And that grounding gives you something external success never can: self-respect. A deep sense of confidence that doesn't shake with praise or collapse under criticism, because it's built on authenticity. So how do you make this kind of reflection a habit? One of the most practical ways is through journaling, something the Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, practiced religiously. Journaling doesn't have to be complicated. It's not about writing a novel. It's about creating a safe, honest space where you can track your thoughts, review your day, and reconnect with your purpose. A simple journal entry might include, what went well today? What challenged me? How did I respond? What would I like to improve tomorrow? Over time, these short entries create a powerful timeline of your growth. They help you recognize patterns, measure progress, and stay accountable, not to others, but to yourself. To recap, self-reflection helps you apply Stoic wisdom to real life. It teaches you to focus on what you can control: your actions, thoughts, and attitude. It helps you identify and reframe limiting beliefs. It keeps you grounded in your values. And when practiced consistently, especially through journaling, it builds true, unshakable confidence from the inside out. Because confidence isn't just about believing in yourself, it's about knowing yourself and trusting who you're becoming. So far, we've explored how practicing self-reflection, through honest daily review or journaling, can help us understand our inner world, reshape limiting beliefs, and reinforce alignment with our values. But now, let's take the next step, because when life gets tough, reflection alone isn't enough. That's when we need something even deeper. Resilience. Let's be honest. Life doesn't go according to plan. It throws curveballs, delays, disappointments, moments that shake our confidence, test our patience, and challenge our strength. But here's the truth at the heart of Stoic philosophy. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus, and that is resilience. Resilience is one of the most essential traits for anyone who wants to move through life with confidence. It's the ability to rise after setbacks, to adapt during adversity, and to keep showing up when things get hard. For the Stoics, resilience wasn't a nice to have. It was foundational. Because confidence isn't just about believing in yourself when things go well. It's about knowing you can handle yourself when things fall apart. Before we dive into the core of resilience, let's close the loop on one last benefit of self-reflection, especially through journaling. Many Stoic philosophers, especially Marcus Aurelius, use journaling not just to track their growth, but to build mental clarity and prepare for the unexpected. By writing down your reflections each day, you're creating more than just a personal record. You're crafting a mirror for your thoughts, a space to challenge fears, a quiet, powerful ritual that fuels self-awareness and self-assurance over time. Let's walk through a quick example to see this in action. Imagine you're preparing for a high-stakes presentation at work. The pressure is on, your stomach's tight, you're doubting yourself. The inner critic starts whispering, "What if I mess up?" Or, "What if they think I'm not good enough?" But instead of letting those anxious thoughts run wild, you pause and reflect, you journal. Or simply sit in stillness and ask, why am I feeling this way? What's the worst that could realistically happen? What have I done in the past to prepare for moments like this? In the process, you remind yourself, you've given presentations before, you've handled hard things before, and most importantly, you've prepared. That one moment of reflection turns chaos into clarity. The anxiety doesn't disappear, but now it has context. You're grounded, you're calm, you're confident. That's the power of combining reflection with resilience. Resilience isn't about pretending things don't hurt. It's not about ignoring pain or pushing through with fake positivity. It's about learning to face discomfort with grace and move forward with clarity, even when the path is hard. Life will bring personal failures, health issues, financial, stress, misunderstandings, and more. The Stoics didn't deny this. They expected it. But what made them different is how they responded. They trained their minds to meet challenges not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless meditations, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Let that sink in for a moment. That thing standing in your path, it's not stopping you, it is the path. The obstacle isn't your enemy, it's your training ground. This Stoic mindset shift is where resilience really begins. Let's say you experience failure. Maybe you were passed over for a promotion, or a relationship you valued ends unexpectedly. The instinct might be to feel defeated, to shrink, or to blame others. But what if instead you asked, what can I learn from this? What's within my control right now? How can this moment shape me into someone stronger? By choosing to see every challenge as a teacher, not a punishment, you begin to build emotional endurance. You bounce back, not because the pain disappears, but because you've built the muscle to carry it and keep going. In Stoic philosophy, resilience is emotional strength in action. It's not always loud or visible. Sometimes, it's quiet and internal. choosing calm over chaos, staying kind in the face of anger, remaining focused despite distractions, moving forward even slowly instead of giving up. And over time, these small acts of inner discipline become powerful expressions of confidence, because you're proving to yourself that you can trust you, not just in perfect conditions, but especially when things are tough. Let's recap. Resilience is about how you respond when life gets messy. It means seeing challenges not as blocks, but as building blocks. It's the ability to adapt, reflect, reframe, and rise again and again. It's choosing clarity, courage, and character in the face of discomfort. And when you build resilience, your confidence stops depending on outcomes. It starts coming from your ability to navigate any outcome. In the last lesson, we explored how resilience helps us bounce back from life's setbacks by focusing on what we can control and reframing obstacles as opportunities. But the Stoics didn't just teach us to survive hardship, they taught us to embrace it. Let's go even deeper into that truth. Here's a powerful Stoic insight. The obstacle is not the end of the path, it is the path. This idea might sound strange at first. After all, aren't we supposed to avoid pain, discomfort, or difficulty? Not according to the Stoics. They believe that each challenge we face, each unexpected detour or uncomfortable situation, is not something to run from, but something to walk toward with awareness and courage. Why? Because within each obstacle lies a chance to grow, a chance to become stronger, wiser, and more confident in who we are. Let's bring this idea to life with a scenario many people have experienced: losing a job. It's a situation that can trigger panic, self-doubt, or even shame. Your routine changes, your financial stability is shaken, your self-esteem takes a hit. But through the lens of Stoicism, this isn't the end. It's a moment of reinvention. Rather than dwelling on the loss, the Stoics would encourage us to shift our focus to what we can control: how we respond, how we spend our time, what mindset we choose moving forward. When viewed this way, losing a job becomes a turning point, not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. Maybe it's an opportunity to explore a long-forgotten passion, to start your own project, or to recalibrate your priorities. It's not the situation that defines you, it's your response. One of the more practical and powerful Stoic tools for embracing discomfort is something called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. It sounds dark, but it's not. This practice involves imagining things that could go wrong, not to dwell on negativity, but to mentally prepare for adversity before it arrives. That way, when life does throw a curveball, you're not shocked, you're steady. Think of it like mental armor. For instance, before a big decision, you might ask yourself, what's the worst-case scenario? If that happened, how would I respond? What would I still have control over? By visualizing challenges and rehearsing your responses, you reduce fear and build emotional resilience in advance. When trouble comes, and it will, you're less likely to panic and more likely to persevere. Let's compare this to training for a marathon. You don't just show up on race day and hope for the best. You anticipate the pain. You plan for fatigue. You know that somewhere along the route you'll hit a wall. But because you've trained for that discomfort, because you've faced it in practice, you don't fold. You keep moving. You've conditioned your body and your mind to embrace the pain, to work with it, not against it. This is Stoic resilience in action. Prepare for difficulty, accept it, endure it, grow from it. And the same principle applies beyond the racetrack, whether it's a personal loss, a financial struggle, or just the daily grind of life. Another essential piece of the Stoic approach to discomfort is the power of perspective. As Seneca once said, a man is as miserable as he thinks he is. In other words, our experience of hardship is shaped more by our interpretation than by the event itself. If you view an obstacle as insurmountable, it will crush your spirit. But if you view it as a challenge to overcome, a chance to sharpen your mind and character, it becomes manageable, even meaningful. You can't always choose what happens, but you can choose how you see it. This shift in perception is what allows you to endure adversity with strength and emerge with confidence instead of defeat. Of course, Stoic resilience doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. Life is emotional. Loss hurts, frustration builds, fear creeps in. But the Stoics teach us not to let emotions drive our actions. Instead, we acknowledge them without becoming slaves to them. Epictetus put it beautifully. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. You feel anger, that's human, but how you respond, that's Stoic. You feel fear, accept it, but don't let it decide your next move. This emotional discipline isn't about cold detachment, it's about inner steadiness. It's the ability to feel deeply, but act wisely, and that kind of resilience leads to confidence that no storm can shake. To recap, obstacles aren't interruptions, they're invitations to grow. Discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the training, ground for inner strength. Through tools like premeditatio malorum, emotional discipline, and mindset shifts, you learn to face life head-on. And every time you do, your confidence deepens. Not because things get easier, but because you get stronger. The Stoics didn't avoid pain, they walked through it with purpose, presence, and peace. You've now walked through 10 powerful Stoic lessons on how to build lasting confidence, from mastering your thoughts and aligning with your values to embracing discomfort and living with intention. These aren't just philosophical ideas, they're tools. Tools you can use right now to navigate challenges, sharpen your mindset, and step into your life with more clarity and confidence than ever before. So, as you go forward, remember, confidence isn't found. It's built, day by day, choice by choice, challenge by challenge. In our previous lesson, we uncovered how embracing discomfort builds resilience and, with it, unshakable confidence. But even as we learn to accept life's pain and challenges, there's another Stoic trait that strengthens our confidence quietly yet powerfully: the willingness to keep learning. Because to navigate life with clarity, strength, and growth, we must remain students of the world, curious, humble, and open. Let's face it, confidence is often misunderstood. Many people think confidence means always having the answers, always being right, or never needing help. But in truth, real confidence comes from the opposite. It's not about what you already know, it's about your willingness to keep learning. In Stoic philosophy, wisdom is the highest virtue. But the Stoics didn't see wisdom as something you earn once and keep forever. They believed it was a lifelong pursuit, one that required humility, curiosity, and a deep respect for growth. As Epictetus famously said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." That's a powerful reminder, because if you believe you already know it all, you close yourself off from the very thing that leads to strength: understanding. So what does this have to do with confidence? When you approach life with curiosity, you stop fearing the unknown. You stop avoiding new experiences or challenges because you're not ready or not sure. Instead, you begin to say, "I don't know yet. This is new, but I'm willing to learn. I've never done this before, but I'm open to trying." That shift in mindset, from fear to curiosity, transforms how you show up in life. You no longer see uncertainty as a threat. You see it as an invitation, and that quiet openness becomes one of your strongest sources of confidence, because now you're not afraid of making mistakes. You're ready to grow from them. The Stoics believed that learning wasn't reserved for scholars or philosophers. It was for everyone, in every moment of life. Whether through books, conversations, experiences, or even failures, every situation offered a chance to learn something valuable. They didn't wait for ideal conditions. They didn't wait until they were ready. They simply stayed open to the lessons life was already trying to teach. Confidence, then, doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from trusting that you can learn anything when you stay curious. let's take a moment to reflect on the world around us. How often do we let fear of the unknown hold us back? Maybe it's the fear of starting something new, or the fear of speaking up, or simply the fear of being wrong. But what if, instead of seeing the unknown as dangerous, we saw it as exciting? Curiosity says, let's find out. Fear says, what if I fail? The Stoics encouraged us to live with curiosity, not caution, not because life is always safe, but because it's always offering us something to learn. When you adopt that mindset, your confidence grows, not from certainty, but from adaptability. You start to believe in your ability to figure things out along the way. So how can you bring this into your everyday life? You don't need a philosophy degree or a stack of ancient texts. All you need is a mindset of openness. Try this. Ask questions more often than you give answers. Read something that challenges your thinking. Talk to people who see the world differently than you do. Reflect on your mistakes, not to judge yourself, but to learn. These small daily practices keep your mind sharp and your confidence dynamic, not rigid. You're not building a tower of ego, you're building a bridge of growth. Think about someone you truly admire, someone who's both humble and strong. Chances are they don't walk around acting like they have it all figured out. Instead, they listen, they ask questions, they adapt. And because of that, they thrive in uncertain situations. They learn quickly. They grow continuously. That's real confidence. The courage to keep learning, even when you don't have all the answers, to bring it all together. Stoicism teaches that wisdom is the highest good, but wisdom begins with humility. Confidence doesn't come from having all the answers, but from being open to learning. When you approach life with curiosity, you stop fearing mistakes and start embracing growth. By staying curious, humble, and open-minded, you build a flexible, powerful form of confidence that carries you through anything. Because the more willing you are to learn, the more prepared you are to live. In our last lesson, we explored how true confidence comes from curiosity, the willingness to keep learning, ask questions, and grow, no matter where you are in life. Now, let's take that mindset into real-life situations where it matters most. The moments when we're unsure, unprepared, or simply stepping into something new. Because that's exactly when a Stoic approach can turn uncertainty into strength. Imagine someone starting a new job, maybe in a field they're not entirely familiar with. They've got the skills to get hired, but everything still feels foreign. The systems, the culture, the people. Naturally, they feel nervous, maybe even overwhelmed. Now they have two choices. They could shrink back, worried about making mistakes and looking incompetent, or they could lean into it with curiosity. They ask questions, they take notes, they stay open, they approach each challenge like a puzzle waiting to be solved. What happens next? They begin to absorb knowledge quickly. They pick things up, one task at a time. Each day brings more understanding, more competence, and with that comes a natural, rising confidence. They're not confident because they know everything. They're confident because they're willing to learn anything. And that, the Stoics would say, is the beginning of wisdom. Let's step into the writings of Marcus Aurelius, who captured the fleeting nature of life in one of his more haunting reflections. In the life of a man, his time is but a moment, his being an incessant flux, his senses a dim rushlight, his body a prey of worms, his soul a whirl, his fortune dark, and his fame doubtful. Life is a warfare and a stranger's sojourn, and after fame, oblivion. This passage doesn't aim to depress. It's a wake-up call, a Stoic reminder that nothing is permanent, that our time, our bodies, even our fame, are temporary and ever-changing. And, rather than fear this impermanence, the Stoics taught us to embrace it with curiosity, because the more we accept that life is in constant flux, the more confident we become in our ability to adapt, evolve, and keep growing, no matter what comes. At the core of Stoic learning is the principle of continuous self-improvement. You're not learning for applause. You're not growing for titles. You're doing it to become a better version of yourself. Internally, quietly, persistently. Seneca summed it up perfectly. As long as you live, keep learning how to live. That single sentence captures the entire Stoic philosophy on learning. Life itself is a lesson, and every day is a chance to get better. Not to be perfect, but to be more aware, more intentional, more resilient. When you commit to this process, your confidence naturally strengthens, because you begin to trust in your own progress. Even if you're not there yet, you know you're on your way. But learning doesn't only happen alone. Another often overlooked element of confidence is the willingness to ask questions. So many people hesitate to seek help or admit they don't know something. Why? Because they fear looking weak, but the Stoics taught the opposite. Asking questions is not a sign of ignorance, it's a sign of wisdom and strength. Take Socrates, whose teachings heavily influenced Stoicism. He was famous for constantly asking questions, deep, challenging ones. He wasn't trying to prove how much he knew, he was trying to understand more deeply. That's true confidence, the ability to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. And the more you ask, the more you learn. Not just facts, but perspectives, insights, and experiences that broaden your view of the world. Finally, let's talk about something that might seem counterintuitive. Confidence isn't about never changing your mind. In fact, the Stoics believed that real confidence is flexible. It's not rigidly clinging to your current beliefs because you're afraid of being wrong. It's staying open, willing to adjust when new evidence or better reasoning presents itself. Confidence says, I trust my ability to grow, not just defend my views. This doesn't mean doubting yourself constantly. It means being rooted but adaptable, having strong values, but a mind open enough to evolve. When you embrace that, you stop fearing being wrong. You start valuing what's right, and you gain confidence not in being right all the time, but in your commitment to truth and growth. To sum it up, starting something new can be intimidating, but curiosity turns uncertainty into confidence. Life is fleeting, unpredictable, and ever-changing. Learning how to live every single day is the Stoic path forward. Asking for help doesn't weaken your image, it strengthens your mind. Confidence doesn't come from knowing it all, but from staying willing to learn and grow. True strength lies in open-mindedness and the ability to change when wisdom calls for it. Because when you remain a lifelong learner, you're never without direction. And when you stay curious, confidence becomes your constant companion. Previously, we uncovered how staying curious and open to learning, both from the world and from within, builds deep, lasting confidence. But to truly live out this mindset in daily life, there's one more Stoic discipline we can't ignore: mindfulness. Because while curiosity helps you grow, presence helps you stay grounded. Let's be real. In today's fast-paced world, staying present is easier said than done. We're constantly pulled in every direction, scrolling through endless notifications, juggling to-do lists, thinking about what just happened, or worrying about what's next. And in that mental chaos, confidence often gets buried. But the Stoics saw through this long ago. They taught that one of the most powerful ways to build clarity, calm, and confidence is to anchor yourself in the present moment. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, confine yourself to the present. Why? Because the past is gone. The future is unknowable. The only time we can actually act, decide, or grow is right now. At its core, mindfulness is about paying attention, intentionally and without judgment. It means noticing your thoughts and emotions without being ruled by them. It means listening when someone speaks, instead of mentally rehearsing your response. It means being aware of where you are, what you're doing, and why it matters. And most importantly, it means not missing your life while chasing after the future or clinging to the past. When you're truly present, you're more than just calm. You're clear. You can see what matters. You can respond wisely. And that clarity naturally builds confidence. Why do so many people struggle with confidence? Often, it's because their minds are constantly somewhere else. They're rehearsing mistakes they made yesterday. They're bracing for what might go wrong tomorrow. They're stuck in a loop of what-ifs and should-haves. This creates a constant hum of anxiety and self-doubt. You're not focused on what you're doing. You're distracted by fear and noise. But when you come back to the present moment, when you choose to fully engage with now, that noise quiets. You feel steadier, more in control, more capable. Because your energy is no longer split between what's behind you and what's ahead. It's fully with you. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're giving a talk or presenting a new idea to your team. If your mind is consumed by thoughts like, what if I mess up? Or, what will they think of me? You're not really in the room. You're stuck in imagined futures, and that disconnect feeds nervousness. But if you breathe, center yourself, and fully engage with your words, your body language, and your audience, you naturally become more confident. You're not trying to predict every outcome. You're simply showing up, in real time, with intention. That's presence, and presence is powerful. Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet reflections of Meditations, returned to this truth again and again. He knew how easy it was to be distracted, especially as an emperor carrying the weight of an empire. But his advice remained simple. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. What is that strength, if not confidence rooted in presence? To be present is to accept what is, rather than anxiously chase what might be. It's not passive, it's profoundly active. It's a daily decision to return to where you are and take action from that space. So how can you bring more mindfulness into your life? You don't need hours of meditation or a silent retreat. You just need intentional moments. Try this. Take 5 minutes in the morning to breathe and check in with your thoughts. When eating, slow down and really taste your food. When speaking with someone, give them your full attention. When you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask, what's happening? Right now, what can I control? These small shifts bring you back to the moment. And over time, they train your mind to be calmer, sharper, and more grounded. To recap, mindfulness is the practice of being fully present, aware of your thoughts, feelings, and surroundings. When you live in the present, you quiet anxiety, release distractions, and focus your energy where it matters. The Stoics taught that confidence comes from clarity, and clarity lives in now, not in what if. With simple daily practices, you can train your mind to return to the moment, again and again, and when you do, you build the kind of calm, unshakable confidence that doesn't depend on outcomes, but on presence. Because confidence isn't found in the past. It isn't waiting in the future. It lives right here, in this moment. We've just explored how mindfulness anchors us in the present moment, helping us calm our minds, sharpen our focus, and strengthen our confidence. But beyond clarity and calm, mindfulness offers something even more transformative. The ability to live with contentment, intention, and emotional strength. Qualities the Stoics deeply valued. One of the most empowering Stoic lessons is this. The future is not ours to control. We can plan, prepare, and hope, but the outcome is never guaranteed. And when we obsess over the future, we don't gain control. We lose peace. Epictetus said it best. He who is not content with what he has would not be content with what he would like to have. This quote cuts straight to the heart of modern anxiety. If we can't be present with what we already have, no future achievement will truly satisfy us. That's why Stoicism and mindfulness go hand in hand. When we let go of obsessive planning and choose to engage fully with this moment, we find something far more valuable than certainty. We find inner peace. Mindfulness is more than a calming, exercise. It's a practice of full engagement. When you give your undivided attention to the task in front of you, whether it's preparing a presentation, having a conversation, or simply making a cup of tea, you do it better. You feel more in control, and you naturally build confidence in your abilities. The Stoics believe deeply in the power of intentional action. To act with focus, purpose, and clarity, not scattered or distracted, but grounded in the now. Seneca captured this truth when he wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." This ancient wisdom still rings true today. Multitasking, mental noise, and divided attention don't make us more productive. They make us less effective and less confident. But when we practice presence, we bring our best self to every situation. And that presence becomes a source of calm, clarity, and quiet power. Let's walk through a relatable scenario. Imagine you're preparing for a big presentation at work. You've done the research, created the slides, rehearsed your talking points, but still, your mind starts spinning. What if I forget my lines? What if they hate it? What if I mess up? Sound familiar? This kind of anxious thinking pulls you out of the moment and into a future that hasn't happened. It disconnects you from your preparation and weakens your confidence. But here's where mindfulness steps in. Instead of spiraling into what if, you pause. You return your attention to your breath. You focus on the task in front of you. You remind yourself, I've prepared. I'm here. I've got this. By grounding yourself in the present, you quiet the noise. You stay connected to what you can control: your delivery, your pacing, your mindset. And even if things don't go perfectly, you remain steady. That's confidence born from presence, not perfection. The Stoics also recognize that mindfulness isn't just mental, it's emotional. When we are fully present, we begin to observe our emotions without being ruled by them. Instead of reacting impulsively, we respond intentionally. We notice when fear, anger, or anxiety arise, and we choose how to meet them. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. The world may swirl around you, but your response is always within your power. This kind of emotional awareness is a game changer. It builds resilience, it builds poise, and most importantly, it builds confidence. The quiet kind that comes from knowing you can remain composed in the midst of chaos. Another powerful aspect of mindfulness is something we often overlook: gratitude. In a world that constantly tells us to chase more success, more things, more attention, the Stoics remind us to pause and appreciate what we already have. Epictetus offered this timeless insight. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It reminds you that, even in the midst of uncertainty or challenge, there is always something to be thankful for. A breath, a lesson, a chance to try again. When you practice gratitude, you stop measuring your worth by what you lack and start seeing strength in what you already possess. To bring this together, mindfulness teaches us to focus on what we can control, the present moment. It helps us let go of anxiety about the future and regrets about the past. It sharpens our focus, strengthens our performance, and deepens our emotional control. When we are mindful, we respond with clarity instead of reacting with fear. And by practicing gratitude, we learn to find contentment, not by acquiring more, but by appreciating now. Confidence doesn't just come from doing more, it comes from being here, fully present, emotionally aware, and intentionally engaged. In our previous lesson, we explored how mindfulness helps us calm the mind, challenge negative thoughts, and anchor ourselves in the present moment. But for mindfulness to truly guide us forward, we also need something else. Something the Stoics considered vital to living with purpose and confidence: a clear vision. because once you're grounded in the now, you need to know where you're going. Next, when life feels chaotic or uncertain, confidence often slips through our fingers. We lose motivation. We hesitate. We second-guess ourselves. But ask yourself this: how often do those feelings come not from failure, but from simply not knowing what you're really aiming for? According to Stoic philosophy, confidence doesn't come from achieving every goal. It comes from knowing what matters most and then aligning your life with it. That's the power of having a clear vision. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea perfectly in Meditations when he wrote, "People who labor all their lives but have no purpose to direct every thought and impulse toward are wasting their time, even when hard at work." Let that sink in. You can be productive, you can be busy, you can even be successful in the eyes of others. But without a clear sense of purpose, without knowing your why, you may still feel lost. Stoicism teaches us that clarity of purpose is what transforms effort into meaning. It's what gives your daily actions weight and direction. And from that clarity comes a deep sense of inner confidence. You stop asking, "Am I doing enough?" and start trusting, "I'm doing what matters most." Mindfulness allows us to become fully present. But presence alone isn't enough. We need to be present for something. A clear vision gives mindfulness a destination. And when your focus and energy are directed towards something deeply aligned with your values, every step you take, no matter how small, reinforces your sense of purpose. You begin to feel more grounded, more motivated, and yes, more confident. Let's face it, modern life is full of distractions. From endless social media notifications to societal pressures, we are constantly pulled in different directions. It's easy to lose focus, easy to let other people's opinions define our goals, easy to drift instead of drive. But the Stoics warned us about this centuries ago. Epictetus gave us this timeless advice. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, get clear before you take action. Know who you want to become. Know what you want to stand for. Then, let that clarity guide your daily choices. This practice of intentional living doesn't just keep you focused. It fuels your confidence, because now every decision is rooted in something solid. Let's paint a picture. Imagine two people, both working hard, both juggling responsibilities, both appearing busy, but one has a clear vision. They know why they're doing what they're doing. They've defined their values, and their actions reflect them. When setbacks happen, they adjust, but they don't lose sight of the bigger picture. The other person, they're working just as hard, but they're unsure where they're headed. They keep chasing new goals, hoping one will finally bring fulfillment, but their confidence wavers because they don't have a steady compass to guide them. Who do you think feels more at peace with their path? Who walks with more certainty, even in uncertainty? Clarity makes the difference. So how do you cultivate this clarity? It starts with asking honest, reflective questions. What do I value most in life? Who do I want to become? Not just professionally, but personally. What goals align with my deeper purpose? What distractions am I letting steal my focus? Write these down. Reflect on them regularly. Let them evolve as you grow. Because a clear vision isn't static. It's a living part of your inner world. The more time you spend refining it, the more confident you'll feel about the direction you're taking. To bring it all together, Stoicism teaches that confidence doesn't come from random action. It comes from purposeful action. A clear vision helps you filter out noise, eliminate distractions, and stay focused on what truly matters. When you know where you're going and why, you act with intention, and that intention fuels unshakable confidence. As Epictetus taught, define who you want to be, and then align your daily choices accordingly. Because when your path is clear, your confidence no longer depends on outcomes. It's anchored in meaning, purpose, and direction. We've seen how having a clear vision brings direction, focus, and confidence to everything we do. But without that vision, it's easy to drift, bouncing from task to task, project to project, chasing approval or the next shiny thing without knowing why. Let's now explore how this lack of clarity undermines confidence and how the Stoic approach helps us turn it around. Have you ever felt like you were doing a lot but not getting anywhere? Many people fall into this trap. They jump from one job to the next, start projects they never finish, or say yes to things that don't really align with what they value. From the outside, they may seem busy, even successful, but on the inside, there's doubt, confusion, a quiet voice asking, "Am I on the right path?" This constant motion without direction chips away at confidence because deep down, they don't know if their efforts are leading anywhere meaningful. And without that sense of purpose, it's hard to trust yourself, let alone feel strong in your decisions. Now picture the opposite. Someone who knows exactly what matters to them. They've taken time to reflect. They're clear about their goals, their values, and the kind of life they want to live. Every action they take, even the small ones, feels aligned with that larger vision. When choices arise, they can weigh them against their purpose and say with certainty, "Yes, this serves me," or "No, this isn't my path." That kind of clarity creates an unshakable confidence, because it's not based on achievements, it's based on alignment. The Stoics understood this long before the modern world made goal-setting trendy. Seneca said it plainly: "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." In other words, even the best opportunities can become distractions if you don't know where you're headed. A bigger salary, a new title, or a fancy offer may sound great, but if it pulls you off course, it might actually cost you more than it gives. Confidence doesn't come from saying yes to everything. It comes from knowing what to say no to. Let's look at a simple, practical scenario. Imagine you're offered a high-paying job, but it requires long hours, no work-life balance, and compromises your personal ethics. Without a clear vision, you might hesitate. You might take it out of fear, of missing out, of looking unambitious, of disappointing others. But if you've already defined your values, if you know that you prioritize meaningful work, health, family time, or personal integrity, you can confidently turn it down. Why? Because it doesn't fit your vision. There's no need to second guess, because your internal compass is set. You're not choosing based on pressure. You're choosing based on purpose. And that decision, even if it's tough, feels empowering. So, how do we create this kind of clear vision? It starts with self-reflection. The Stoics didn't guess their way through life. They paused, they questioned, they journaled. They got brutally honest with themselves about what mattered and what didn't. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, regularly reminded himself of his principles, his purpose, and the kind of man he wanted to be. He knew that clarity doesn't come from the outside. It comes from looking within. When you take the time to reflect, you gain a deeper understanding of your values, your goals, and your true priorities. That insight becomes your internal guide, and once you're aligned with it, your confidence grows. Because now, every decision is backed by who you are, not just what's happening around you. In addition to reflection, the Stoics practice something surprisingly modern: visualization. But not the vague, manifest your dreams kind. Stoic visualization is grounded, intentional, and deeply reflective. It's about imagining your ideal future, not just what you want to have, but who you want to be. What does your best life look like? What values guide your choices? What kind of challenges will you face? And how will you respond? By regularly visualizing your future, you clarify what matters. You reinforce your sense of purpose, and you identify the steps that will take you there. Visualization isn't about fantasy, it's about focus. It creates a mental roadmap, one you can return to anytime you feel lost or distracted. Let's bring it all together. Jumping from task to task without direction leads to confusion, doubt, and burnout. A clear vision gives you focus, strength, and purpose. With clarity, even hard decisions become easier because you know what aligns with your values. Through self-reflection and visualization, you deepen your understanding of what you want and why. And that understanding becomes the foundation of your confidence, stable, steady, and self-directed. Because when you know where you're going, you no longer need to chase validation. You just walk your path, one aligned step at a time. In our last lesson, we explored how having a clear vision, guided by self-reflection, visualization, and strong personal values, can shape your path and strengthen your confidence. That clarity acts as your compass. But even with direction, the terrain ahead isn't always smooth. So what keeps you moving forward when obstacles appear? The answer lies in your mindset, specifically a Stoic mindset rooted in calm, clarity, and optimism. Let's start with a simple truth. Your mindset shapes your experience. This isn't just motivational fluff. It's one of the foundational teachings of Stoic philosophy. The way you think about life, especially its challenges, determines how you live it. Marcus Aurelius, writing in the quiet hours of reflection, put it this way: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Think about that. Not your income, not your job title, not what others think of you, your thoughts. So, what are you feeding your mind with daily? Many people tie confidence to external things: success, praise, achievements. And while those things can feel good, they're unreliable. They come and go. They fluctuate based on circumstances you don't fully control. But your thoughts? That's your territory. And when your inner world is filled with negativity, self-doubt, fear, or comparison, even the best opportunities can feel overwhelming. You hesitate. You question yourself. You shrink. On the other hand, when you cultivate a positive, grounded mindset, when you focus on growth, possibility, and your ability to learn from setbacks, your confidence becomes steady and real. It no longer depends on perfect conditions. It comes from within. Stoicism isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's not blind positivity. It's not telling yourself everything will be easy. Instead, Stoicism teaches optimism through strength. It teaches that while you can't always choose your circumstances, you can always choose your response. And in that choice lies power. Epictetus famously reminded his students, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This isn't just a quote to put on your wall. It's a mindset to carry with you every day. Life will throw curveballs: rejection, failure, misunderstandings, illness, loss. But the Stoic doesn't ask, "Why me?" The Stoic asks, "How will I respond?" And that shift from helplessness to agency is where confidence begins. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine you're facing a setback at work. Maybe a project failed. Maybe you didn't get the promotion. Your first thoughts might be, "I'm not good enough. I blew it. I'll never succeed." But now pause and apply the Stoic lens. Ask, what can I learn from this? What's still within my control? How can I grow stronger through this experience? Suddenly, the setback becomes a stepping stone. You start looking at it not as a sign of failure, but as an opportunity to adapt, adjust, and rise. That's the power of mindset. Not denying difficulty, but choosing to meet it with resilience and clarity. So, how do we shift into this mindset more consistently? Just like building a muscle, your mindset needs regular training. Try this. Notice your thoughts. Throughout the day, become aware of negative self-talk or limiting beliefs. Question those thoughts. Ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Reframe intentionally. Replace thoughts like, "I can't do this," with, "I'm learning how to handle this." Focus on what you can control. your effort, your preparation, your attitude, your response. These small, daily shifts begin to rewire your thinking. Over time, you'll notice more clarity, more emotional strength, and more quiet confidence. A lot of people think Stoicism is about being unemotional or detached, but that's not it. Stoicism is about being mentally clear, emotionally balanced, and spiritually grounded. And a positive mindset is part of that clarity. It allows you to see obstacles as teachers, accept uncertainty without fear, respond to adversity without losing your center, believe in your ability to keep going, even when the path is tough. That's not delusion, that's discipline. A positive Stoic mindset doesn't deny difficulty. It meets it with inner strength, shaped by perspective, purpose, and practice. Let's bring it all together. Your mindset shapes your life, more than circumstances ever will. Stoicism teaches us that by mastering our thoughts, we gain control over how we experience everything. A positive mindset doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. It means meeting life's challenges with clarity, focus, and strength. When you focus on what you can control, reframe negative thoughts, and choose growth over fear, your confidence deepens. And over time, this mindset becomes your anchor, steady, resilient, and unshakable. Because confidence doesn't start with the world outside. It starts with the thoughts you choose. Moment by moment, in our previous lesson, we explored how a positive mindset helps us build confidence from within by shifting how we choose to interpret what happens around us. Now let's dive deeper into a practical tool that the Stoics use to turn challenges into opportunities: reframing. When you can't change the situation, change how you see it. Life will always bring moments beyond our control. A failed project, a missed opportunity, a difficult relationship. And while you can't always control what happens, you can control how you respond. When you choose to view setbacks not as defeats, but as lessons, you build the confidence to face adversity with calm, resilience, and growth in mind. That's the essence of Stoic strength. You don't break in difficulty, you shape yourself through it. Reframing. The art of shifting. Perspective. Reframing is one of the most practical and powerful ways to develop a positive mindset. At its core, it means consciously changing the way you interpret a situation, especially when it feels negative or overwhelming. The Stoics believed in the power of perception. As Epictetus taught, people are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. By changing how we see something, we change how we experience it. For example, instead of seeing a mistake as failure, you can reframe it as a valuable learning opportunity. That one small shift in how you think transforms how you feel, and that builds confidence. Because now, you're not powerless, you're learning, growing, adapting. Practical example: fear of public speaking. Let's take a common scenario: public speaking. A lot of people fear standing in front of an audience. They worry about being judged, making mistakes, or forgetting their words. But using a Stoic mindset, you can reframe the entire experience. Instead of thinking, "What if I mess up?" think, "This is a chance to practice, a chance to share my ideas. Even if it's not perfect, I'll improve." This simple mental shift reduces anxiety and builds self-trust. You're no longer performing out of fear, you're showing up to grow. The present moment is where confidence lives. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." This timeless Stoic wisdom reminds us that real power lies in the present. When we focus too much on the future or ruminate on the past, we lose touch with the only moment we can actually control: now. A positive mindset is grounded in the present. It focuses on what you can do right now, what you can say, how you can act, how you can move forward. That's where true confidence is built, not in prediction, but in presence. Gratitude, the quiet engine of confidence. Another cornerstone of a positive mindset in Stoicism is gratitude. Gratitude helps shift your focus away from what's missing, what went wrong, or what others have, and back to what you already do have. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on life's simplest gifts: his health, his relationships, the chance to serve others. When you practice gratitude, even during hard times, you remind yourself of your resources, your strengths, and your support system. It becomes easier to stay grounded and confident because you realize that you're not empty, you're not lacking, you're capable right now. Managing negative thoughts. Through self-awareness, to develop a positive mindset, you also need to become skilled at identifying and challenging negative thoughts. The Stoics understood how destructive unexamined thoughts could be. That's why they encouraged constant self-awareness and discipline. Epictetus offered this advice: when you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. This wisdom isn't just about humility, it's about clarity. When a negative thought arises, whether it's fear, anger, or self-doubt, pause. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it based on reality or shaped by fear? Can I view this situation differently? This kind of mental questioning doesn't suppress your emotions. It strengthens your ability to manage them. And over time, it rewires your brain to focus on growth rather than limitation. Wrapping up. Lesson 18. Your mindset is your foundation. Here's what we've learned. You can't always control what happens, but you can control how you perceive and respond. Reframing helps you transform setbacks into lessons and fear into growth. Living in the present moment gives you access to calm, clarity, and action. Practicing gratitude and recognizing your strengths helps you stay grounded. Managing negative thoughts through awareness gives you power over your inner world. Confidence doesn't come from having a perfect life. It comes from believing that no matter what happens, you can handle it. Previously, we explored how developing a positive mindset can transform the way we approach life's challenges. Now, let's see how that mindset plays out in action, especially in moments when our confidence is tested, because the thoughts we choose in those moments can either lift us up or pull us down. Replace doubt with empowerment. Let's look at a real-life situation. Imagine you're assigned a challenging project at work. Maybe something you've never done before, something that feels just a bit out of your depth. Almost instinctively, your first thought is, I can't do this. I'm going to mess up. That thought alone is powerful. It starts a chain reaction of doubt, anxiety, and avoidance. You feel yourself shrinking before you've even started. But now, apply the Stoic mindset. Catch the thought, question it. What if instead you reminded yourself, I've handled difficult tasks before. I've developed real skills over time. I have access to support and resources. I don't have to do this alone. This mental shift doesn't magically remove the challenge, but it reframes it. Now, instead of facing the project with fear, you're approaching it with awareness of your capabilities and a belief in your potential to grow. That's the power of replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones, a core practice in building lasting confidence. Acceptance, strength in adversity. A positive mindset isn't just about optimism, it's also about acceptance. Accepting that life isn't perfect, that success doesn't always come easy, that setbacks are inevitable. The Stoics embraced this truth fully. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body." In other words, adversity isn't the enemy. It's the gym where your mind becomes stronger. When you accept that both success and failure are part of the journey, you become more emotionally resilient. You stop fearing failure. You stop avoiding discomfort. You start seeing challenge as fuel for growth. And in doing so, your confidence becomes deeper, Not because you expect things to always go well, but because you trust in your ability to rise, no matter what. Reframing and gratitude, anchors for positivity. We've already touched on reframing and gratitude, but these tools deserve a second look here, because they're often the fastest ways to reset your mindset. When something goes wrong, ask, what can I learn from this? When you feel overwhelmed, pause and reflect. What do I already have that I can be grateful for? This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything's fine. It means anchoring your focus on what's constructive, not destructive. Over time, this mindset becomes your default response. Instead of spiraling into stress, you start centering yourself in strength. Wrapping up, Lesson 19, Part 1. A strong mind creates a strong life. Here's what this part teaches us. Negative thoughts may arise, but you don't have to believe them. Replacing them with realistic, empowering beliefs helps you regain control. Acceptance of adversity builds inner strength and emotional maturity. Gratitude and reframing are daily tools to help you stay grounded in what matters. Confidence isn't about always having answers. It's about trusting yourself to keep growing, because when your thoughts support your growth, your confidence becomes unstoppable. Transitioning into leadership, where inner mastery meets outer impact. And now we come to the next dimension of confidence, leadership. Not the kind that relies on status, charisma, or control, but the kind of leadership the Stoics valued deeply, self-leadership. Because before you can lead others, you must first learn to lead yourself. In our modern world, leadership is often associated with power, decision-making, and authority. But Stoic philosophy gives us a much deeper definition. According to the Stoics, true leadership begins within. It's not about commanding others, it's about mastering yourself, your actions, your emotions, and your mindset. Epictetus put it simply, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This quote strikes at the heart of Stoic leadership. If you can't lead yourself with discipline, clarity, and calm, how can you expect to lead anyone else? Self-discipline, the foundation of Stoic leadership. One of the defining traits of a high Stoic leader is self-discipline. A leader who can't control their temper, impulses, or emotions is easily swayed by outside forces. They react instead of responding. They panic instead of pausing. But a Stoic leader remains composed, even when everything around them is in chaos. They listen more than they speak. They act with purpose, not pride. And their steadiness naturally earns the trust of those around them. Because when others see that you are grounded, they begin to feel grounded too. Marcus Aurelius. Leadership in action. Perhaps the greatest example of Stoic leadership is Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who wielded immense power but always turned inward for guidance. In his meditations, he constantly reminded himself to stay calm under pressure, think clearly before acting, treat others with fairness and respect, make decisions based on virtue, not ego. His example shows us that leadership isn't about having control over people. It's about having control over yourself, especially when it's hardest. Integrity, leading by example. Another cornerstone of Stoic leadership is integrity. A true Stoic leader doesn't say one thing and do another. They live their values. They model the behavior they expect from others. When your actions match your principles, you earn respect, not through fear or charisma, but through authenticity. That kind of leadership inspires people not just to follow orders, but to follow your example. Wrapping up. Lesson 19, from mindset to leadership. To summarize, confidence begins with mastering your thoughts, but grows stronger when you apply that mastery to how you live and lead. Stoic leadership starts with self-discipline, emotional control, and inner clarity. Through consistent integrity and calm presence, you influence others. not by force, but by example. And ultimately, the best leaders are those who lead themselves first, with purpose, patience, and wisdom. Because when you lead yourself well, others will naturally trust your direction. We've explored how Stoic leadership begins with self-mastery, where confidence isn't loud and power doesn't come from position, but from principle. And now, let's bring it all together by looking at what truly defines a Stoic leader in action: humility, consistency, emotional balance, and service to others. Consistency builds. Trust true leadership is not about saying one thing and doing another. A Stoic leader lives their values, even when it's difficult, even when no one's watching. Seneca once wrote, "You must live for others if you wish to live for yourself." This quote captures the heart of Stoic leadership. Leadership isn't about self-glory or control, it's about serving. When your actions consistently reflect your values, you earn the trust of those around you, not because you demand it, but because you've shown you deserve it. A real-world example: leadership with integrity. Picture this. A company manager is faced with a difficult decision, perhaps layoffs or significant budget cuts. There's pressure, there's uncertainty, and there's no way to make everyone happy. But instead of avoiding hard conversations or making decisions behind closed doors, this leader chooses integrity. They communicate openly with their team. They explain the reasoning behind their choices. They listen to feedback and acknowledge the emotional weight of the moment. Their decisions aren't just logical, they're ethical. And that builds trust. Why? Because people can see that their leader is not just doing what's easy, but doing what's right. This kind of leadership doesn't just earn respect, it reinforces the leader's own confidence. Why? Because when your actions are aligned with your principles, you never have to second-guess your path. Humility. The quiet strength of great leaders, in contrast to popular images of leadership built on charisma or dominance, the Stoics saw humility as essential. Epictetus advised, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." This is about self-awareness, knowing your strengths, acknowledging your limits, and leading not from ego, but from honesty. A Stoic leader doesn't pretend to have all the answers. They seek wisdom from others. They're open to learning. They admit when they're wrong, and in doing so, they create a team culture where everyone feels heard, valued, and empowered. Because when a leader shows humility, others feel safe to grow, unshaken by praise or criticism. A powerful aspect of Stoic leadership is emotional resilience, especially in how you deal with external opinions. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." This means a Stoic leader doesn't let praise inflate their ego or let criticism destroy their self-worth. Why? Because both are external judgments, and the Stoics teach us not to place our happiness or confidence in things we can't control. This emotional stability allows leaders to stay grounded, calm, and focused on what truly matters, even in the midst of tension, criticism, or pressure. Empathy and compassion, Stoic, not Stoic. Cold Stoicism is often misunderstood as emotionless, but true Stoic leaders are anything but cold. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Stoic leadership balances reason with compassion. It recognizes that people are not just resources or roles, they're human beings with feelings, stress, and needs. Take, for example, a leader managing a team during a high-pressure project. A Stoic leader won't ignore performance, but they also won't ignore the people behind the work. They listen, they make space for emotions. They help solve problems, not just assign tasks. That blend of empathy and rational action strengthens teams and builds a culture of loyalty, respect, and purpose. Service. The heart of true leadership. Above all, Stoic leadership is about service. Epictetus taught that our goal should be to use our abilities to serve others and contribute to something greater than ourselves. It's not about titles, not about control, not about being admired, It's about asking, how can I help others grow? How can I create value for those I lead? When you lead with this intention, when your goal is not recognition, but contribution, you discover a deeper, lasting kind of confidence. One rooted not in ego, but in purpose. Final reflection, confidence through Stoic leadership. To lead the Stoic way is to lead yourself first, with clarity, calm, and integrity. It means being consistent in your actions and principles, acting with humility, even in power staying grounded, no matter what others say, showing empathy without losing objectivity, and most of all, using your leadership as a force for service, not self-promotion. Because when you lead with wisdom and compassion, you don't just build teams, you build trust, purpose, and confidence that lasts. Final words. Carry Stoic confidence. With you, thank you so much for joining me in this powerful journey. Through Stoic wisdom, confidence isn't something that magically appears overnight. It's something you build day by day through the way you think, act, and respond. Every time you reflect on what really matters, let go of what you can't control. Choose discipline over impulse lead, with values over ego, and respond with strength and stillness. You're practicing the Stoic path. And the more you walk that path, the more natural, grounded, and unshakable your confidence will become. If you found this valuable, if today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need this wisdom, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. Let's keep growing together. Let's keep leading ourselves and others with purpose. And above all, let's keep practicing the kind of confidence that can't be shaken by the outside world. See you in the next one.